What is going on, everybody? We are back for another episode of the ABJ Podcast, and this one is about to get golden because I have today one of the top rising stars on the independent scene, David Goldy. You've seen him on Apple TV with the Monster Factory. Did a whole documentary style series on independent wrestling and the training school at the Monster Factory. Legendary school, Duke's awesome stuff there. You've seen him on New Japan Strong. Locally on the 570, he is a staple at AXW Wrestling. Guy is a megastar. We'll bring him in one second. But before that, let's get all the housekeeping stuff out of the way. If you want to support the podcast, make sure you check the links below, not only for myself, but for my guest. David's going to have his link tree below that you can go on and check out all the social medias. Please follow and leave a comment. Say, hey, I checked out the podcast. It was awesome. If you learned something new about him or something you hate or love, comment it and let them know. Engagement is always great. Always, you as the fans have a voice and a power. So if you want these entertainers, whether they're musicians, any type of entertainment that I have on this podcast, start making posts to your local venues or promotions to say, bring this person in, because you have a lot more power as a consumer than you think you do. So make sure you support that those people by doing so. Also, links below for my stuff. Follow me on social media. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you check that join button. And there's $1, the $1 feature. There is the $5 feature is the champs. Anything from the $5 and up gets you access to all the content before everybody else gets to see it. So if you're watching this now, this will probably air much later. And if you are a member, you get to see it early, which is a nice little bonus perk for you. Also, great merchandise and t-shirts for sale. But without further ado, we did our little internet panhandling shaking of our cup. Let's get gold here with our guest here today with Goldy. What is going on, my guy?
What is up? What is up? Long time
Nothing
overdue.
Much. Very, very long overdue. So you kind of like made me super happy without even knowing you did it. I was at Hamburg. I believe it was, I don't think it was the last show. It might have been, because I haven't gone to a lot of those shows. And I believe Lily was wearing my shirt, and it was like one of her very first shows. And she went up to your table and she was like, hey, I love your gear. The look, all the merch is cool. And you're like, you know ABJ, I'm trying to get on that podcast. And I was like, he didn't fucking say that. Like, I didn't believe her. I was like, he didn't say that. And I was like, I had no idea you were even aware who I was. But that means a lot, because I do respect your game. I think you do great stuff. Besides just the Monster Factory, New Japan Strong, I think you got a great look. There's a few people on the scene now that I give that moniker of like that newer hybrid wrestler that's out there now. And I think the blueprint and mold to that wrestler is the guy I'm wearing today. I think Adam Cole is that modern day. He can do the skits. He can be heel. He can be face. He has a look. He has a wrestling style. And I think you fit that mold of what the future of this business is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that about myself, but I'll let you say it. I like to be able to say that I'm versatile. Like when I make videos, or when I make my videos with my fellow Golden Era members like Brett, we would always go into it like, hey, let's do something completely different this time. Let's make it super stupid funny. Let's make it really serious. Let's make it really cinematic. Just not making it the same promo that everyone sees. This Saturday at the Hamburg Fieldhouse, I'm wrestling this person. Let's make it something that someone's going to watch for more than the first 10 seconds, because they're like, what is going on here? And in terms of wrestling, I feel similarly. I'm not a high-flying guy per se. I'm not a striker per se. I'm not a submission guy per se. But I can do all of those things. And I think I'm versatile in that sense, like an Adam Cole who, what is his – he's not a set style like some people are. And it leads to being able to wrestle anyone.
Yeah. And that's the trademark of a very talented performer is you want to be the guy that says, hey, I seen a Goldy match and that's a Goldy match, or you like, but also I'd like to see Goldy lock up with this guy because this guy also can do his style. And some people have a hard time of making it like working with their opponent. So sometimes the opponent either completely bows down to the one side and it's a one-sided dance, or vice versa. Like another guy at AXW that I don't know if you guys ever locked up, but I put this guy over very heavily all the time, is JS Hawthorne. Hawthorne is that character that you want to see him work with almost anybody because his character's so dominant, but he also can bend and mold with anyone he works with. He could do a comedy match. He could be the disgusting heel. He could be babyface. He could be funny. Like he's so versatile, and I think you're in that same mold of a lot of people in this area that can do that. Like you can mix with anyone out there.
He is someone I have never stepped in the ring with. I know him well, and I'm sure we will at some point.
Yeah, please do. Someone book that.
Yeah, but a lot of people to go along to that point and why he's good, and why these versatile people are good. There's a lot of wrestlers, and not to shame them for it, but there's a lot of wrestlers who want to be serious. I'm a tough guy. And it works for some people, and that is their thing. But when everyone is the tough guy who can't be funny or only can be funny, it's very limiting.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into it here. We already covered this, but who you are, what you do, professional wrestler. So when did you fall in love with the world of professional wrestling? You've always been a lifelong fan. Is it something that caught you later?
As long as I can remember. My older brother got me into it. So literally my first memories in life are wrestling. My first memories from like 3 years old is John Cena, like word life John Cena.
That's about to say we're gonna timestamp you right here about what your moment of everyone's like the pipe bomb, and I'm like, oh, I am old.
Like JBL, John Cena destroying JBL's limo, like that kind of stuff is burned into my brain as some of my earliest memories.
Yeah. So what type of kid were you growing up? You look insanely athletic. You have a great body, great physique. Were you always an athletic person? Were you a theater kid? Did you stay to yourself?
When it comes to athleticism, I've always been fairly athletic. But no, it's covered in the Apple TV Monster Factory show. But I was a very to myself kid. I grew up with awful social anxiety, generalized anxiety, and panic attacks, and I did not enjoy being around people, being around new people, going to school, anything like that. So getting into wrestling changed a lot, changed everything, genuinely.
So when you say getting into wrestling, like being a fan of it changed a lot for you mentally, or actually getting into the industry?
Being a wrestler, being a fan was good all my childhood. It was kind of my escape. Like every Monday, I knew I had wrestling. Something I could look forward to every week. I wasn't going over friends' houses. I wasn't going to birthday parties. I didn't have that kind of stuff look forward to. But I knew, hey, Monday night, John Cena is going to be there. Undertaker is going to be there. I had that to look forward to every week. So that was good in that sense. But when I turned 17, when I got my driver's license, I went out to the Monster Factory. Despite my own feelings, despite my own brain and the anxieties and fears, just because it was always a dream in the back of my head for whatever reason. This is something I'm going to do. And despite myself, I did. And it started off rough. It was rough for a very long time, but now I'm Goldy, and now I'm traveling the country, the world, wrestling in front of all these people, talking to you. Yeah.
So you essentially, like, kind of what you're saying here, you stayed away from a lot of that, like maybe didn't have a lot of friends, were kind of socially anxiety with everything you went through, and you went yourself to a wrestling school with you didn't go with a friend or a buddy, you just showed up by yourself.
Yeah,
that's a fire you can't teach. That's
exactly.
unbelievable.
I think that says a lot about how much I wanted this, because that is the worst possible thing I could imagine doing. Going to this new place by myself, people I don't know, grown, huge ass men I don't know, and trying to fit in this environment, in this sport that I really know nothing about. I mean, you know, I played wrestling on a trampoline or whatever when I was a kid, but you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it. And I realized that right away.
Yeah. Well, let's give a little love to the place you choose. How did you find your school? Why did you choose your school? And we'll have a little more. I have another follow-up question after that, after your school. I don't want to overwhelm you with a bunch at once.
So when I was a kid, when I 4 or 5, my cousin had a birthday party at the Monster Factory. We still
You're
do.
the second birthday party story so far.
Really?
Yeah. Who was it? Was it oh my god, was it Brothers Gray? Or what? No, Gabe Hodder said his first experience in wrestling was a birthday party at the Monster Factory.
I wonder if I ever talked to him about that before. Maybe we did. I just talked with him the other day.
Yeah, I get them confused. They're both trios.
Yeah.
They're the trio thing. And Primal Fear hasn't been around at PPW in a minute, but yeah, Gabe Hodder said his first experience was a Monster Factory wrestling birthday party.
Yeah, so it was at a different location than it is today. A much worse location. Little shitty place. Bart Simpson drawn up on the wall. Bam Bam Bigelow drawn up on the wall. Very corny, tacky place. Low ring. But that was another thing that was always in my head. And I thought that was so cool. And I was able to go back and watch like footage that my mom filmed, and I still have that footage. But I always knew about the Monster Factory because that, and I always wanted to go back. Years later, you know, looking into how to become a pro wrestler, Monster Factory's there. I'm like, oh, I know that place. And, you know, Sheamus went there, Big Show went there. So I looked into it, and there was a open house or something, and I just turned 17. I just got my driver's license, and I said, all right, well, I guess we'll go ahead on over and see how it goes.
Now, at the birthday party, was there, going back and look at the footage, is there any notable people that were hanging out at the birthday party? Like, I can't believe they were there that day?
I believe that they were there because time-wise it works out. But yeah, I have a video of QT wrestling a match. He was the Bulldog, I think, back then. Yeah, QT.
That's hilarious. I love that.
For the kids. Comes full circle.
And for the people who don't know, QT then expanded the Monster Factory and then made the Nightmare Factory down south, and is thriving. It's almost like a feeder program at the moment for AEW, WWE. All the top stars are kind of, if you're a Nightmare Factory kid, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Hey, came full circle. I just wrestled him a couple months ago. I didn't even really think about that. I watched him. I just wrestled him down in Florida a few months ago.
QT?
So I went from watching him at 4 years old to wrestling now. Never thought about
a lot of people think with Action Andretti that his obviously his big break was wrestling Jericho on Dynamite and getting over, but people don't realize that he wrestled QT on Dark or Collision or one of the other shows, and they got a standing ovation, which then prompted Jericho to be like, I want to put that kid over on Wednesday.
Yeah, Andretti's great. I really only know him through doing extra work with him at AEW, but QT is crazy talented to be able to put him over and get a literal standing ovation for this kid who's on a Dark match. It says so much for QT.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just at the one in Wilkes-Barre, and the opening, this is a Pennsylvania dream match, because I don't think Andretti's from Pennsylvania. He might be New York. I don't remember, but he wrestled a lot in Pennsylvania. He was always at PPW. That was like a big spot where a lot of people knew him from. So the opening match, a ROH, which will be airing soon, Tony Deppen comes out, and then Action Andretti. So we get Deppen versus Action Andretti, and I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe I'm watching this on an ROH show.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always exciting when you get the. I always like being a fan of the independent scene. Every time someone's coming out for extra work, you're like, who do I know? Who do I know? Security's out here. Who do I know? And you got some cool extra work. What was that like getting those moments?
AEW is cool, being able to have dark matches back when they did dark.
Mm-hmm.
Very being able to, see yourself on TV pretty much. It's on YouTube, but being able to send it like, hey, I'm on this real company.
You get that cool promo photo?
Yeah, that's the one I used for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, those promo photos today. Those were always cool, but I've been doing a lot more WWE extra work recently. And I did the Cody Rhodes Crossroads, so that was a big one. Like, I'm not really supposed to talk about it, but it is what it is.
Yeah. You got credited as one of the best Crossroads sells.
Yeah,
or oversells, depending on how you look at it, right?
Yeah, going into it. I'm not gonna go further into. I can't really talk.
No, you don't get yourself in much trouble. I look at it as you sold it. Like, all right, whether you get wrestling terms heat or love for it, you had an opportunity to make a moment, you went for it, but you sold that. Like when people took the stunner, people were known for how they took the stunner. And people used to get shit for it, depending on how high up the card they were. They would get shit on how they sold it. You're the new guy, so you're still in that limbo. But when you get to the point where you blow up, people look back on it like, oh, that was dope. Like your selling was good. You know what I mean? Because you sold it and then somehow fell out. Like it was unbelievable.
So yeah, that one was fun. They're all fun. That one obviously was a little extra special.
You and Leo probably have the greatest AEW spots for me as friends who's been there. You with the I'm sorry, extra work spots. Yeah, you with the Crossroads, and then Leo getting power bombed into the cage by Wardlow, and then going down like a ass down first between the cage and the ring. I was like, yo, he's dead. Yeah. So when did you when you started to pursue your industry and getting into it, what was it like at the beginning at the Monster Factory? What is that experience like being at that school? What are some of the takeaways that you feel it makes the Monster Factory stand out?
So I'll start by saying it has nothing to do with the factory. Once again, going back to myself being there at 17-year-old, being who I was. It was awful for me. I hated it. And once again, nothing to do with the factory, just the fact that I was surrounded by these literally huge people and, these kind of stars. And I'm this skinny 17-year-old kid who doesn't belong and feels like he doesn't belong. I hated it every day. After a couple months, I went on to Danny Cage, the owner of the Monster Factory, and I was like, hey, can I kind of like quit? Can I get a refund for like whatever? And he's like, no. He's like, I can give you the money back. Like that's whatever, but I'm not going to let you quit. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. But going to this day, I'm very thankful for it. He gave
you that Vern Gagne when Flair was going to quit. He's like, I will drive to your house. I will slap you in the mouth and put you in the car and bring you to training.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's seen something in you.
Yeah. From day one, he was always very supportive. And I think he understood, how I felt going into it, whether I told him or not. He was always kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of took me under his wing and kind of helped, push me out of the nest and push me to where I needed to be. And I'm very thankful for that. And that goes into, I guess, why the factory isn't like anywhere else. There's a lot of places that do 12-week courses now, or however many weeks, and it's pay $5,000, do these 12 weeks, and now you're a pro wrestler. And not to knock those schools, a lot of the schools are very good, but there's no way you can learn to be a pro wrestler in 12 weeks. It's just impossible. You can learn moves in 12 weeks, and then you go out and don't know what you're doing, or you make an ass of yourself, or you just become a bad carrier. You go in, you leave. The factory is very, very, knowing the business and being a good person. It comes down to being a good person. Dan is an asshole a lot, and I can say that because I love Dan. He can be tough to deal with, but he cares so much about everyone. And what he said, he could give me my money back. That's fine, but he genuinely cared about me. He cares about every single student, sometimes too much. But he wants people to go out and succeed and not look stupid. So we learn everything. We learn production. We learn reffing. You learn wrestling. You learn showing up on time. You don't realize how big of a thing that is in wrestling, that people just don't show up on time. People show up
insane to me.
Yeah. But we are driven the fundamentals of wrestling and of being a good person and doing what you need to do. And I'll say genuinely, I'm not the greatest wrestler around. My fundamentals are flawless. I'll say that. But I'm not doing this crazy stuff that I see a lot of indie people do. I'll see them, I'll go, I can't do that. But I do everything I need to do. I go above and beyond. I show up on time. I think I'm a good person when it comes to that kind of stuff. Not to, blow smoke up myself, but it's not the wrestling that has really gotten me to where I am. And that's what you realize at the Monster Factory.
When you're at a Monster Factory, obviously you don't know at that point in time. Obviously, you know who has come out of the Monster Factory and how this school is a school that has put on some of the biggest names. You said Sheamus, Big Show, Bam Bam. I mean, we can be here all day long if we listed off the names. Like I tried to the one time, one of my early days on commentary, I was on a 3 to 4 man booth. I was with someone who made it feel like I was on a 6 man booth who wouldn't shut up. So I just was decided I'm just going to play funny man this row. And I try to sneak in as many Monster Factory alumni references during the show as much as possible. I don't know if people hated it or loved it, but it entertained me, and that's all I'm there for. But my favorite one was, if he doesn't get in before that 10 count, this match is over. Also, 10 Preston Vance came from the Monster Factory. But yeah, when you're at a school like that, obviously you know where they come from. And then while you're there, there's a group of people who are probably don't know it yet, but are going to go on to be world champions in WWE and other places. And you have a guy who won't let you quit, and a group of people at that school who won't let you quit. When does it click for you as someone who struggles with that anxiety and self-confidence and everything like that, where you really find yourself? And is there a moment or time or someone who sat you down that, like, you had that moment where you're like, oh shit, this is something I can do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would give some of the credit to my old tag partner, Sean Venor, and really becoming really close friends with him and kind of having that buddy there to kind of keep you going and make you feel like, you have a friend to go to every week. And then from there, kind of just taking on more and more responsibility there, doing stuff backstage, production-wise, and becoming, one of the leaders there. And then it's like, well, I'm here now. There's nowhere for me to go. I'm a leader. I have to stay here. Yeah.
How did you kick that anxiety through wrestling, like hitting a curtain or doing any of that? Like, it's insane to me how you struggled being yourself, because I think you said before you don't do anything crazy in the ring, which I disagree with some. I think you have some pretty cool movesets, but I think what really drives you is you connect with the audience with your character and your storytelling in the ring, and you need charisma to do that. And I just choked on my own spit. But yeah, how did you develop that? Like, when did that come to you?
I would say, I don't know how completely true this is. It's a thought, but it is being able to be a character and not be yourself, to be able to step out of, my own issues and be this character, whether it's this goofy guy or this douchebag. You're able to go out there and be someone you're not, and these people are looking at you, and then most of the time they understand this guy's a character. So now I don't have to worry about the people personally thinking, oh, this guy is this or that, which is, the normal anxiety that I would have. Now it's, oh, this character is an asshole. And it's like, good, that's what I want you to think. So I think it is a lot of that, but there still is, you're going to get anxiety. What do people think of you? They think I'm doing good. They think I look bad. But yeah, it helps ease it.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people say your character is you turn out to 11. Is there a spot where playing the babyface, the heel, the goofball, do you feel like there's a spot in there where maybe you as a person stands out more than other roles?
So I always said that, the Goldy character, the heel version of Goldy was always just, people would look at me, and people have literally said this to me, will look at me and go like, oh, that guy's a douchebag, or you're going to, be perceived as a douchebag. And people are going to like, you're a pretty boy, rich, blah, blah, blah. So I took that, and I'm like, it's easier to take what they already believe and run with it rather than say, hey, no, I'm a nice guy, whatever. It's easier to not have to change someone's mind. So in that character, I think that's my easiest character, just turning up all the perceptions that people have of me. When it comes to, my goofier side with some of our promos and stuff, that might be more towards the real me, because those are just, ideas that we end up throwing out. And it's like, these are just funny ideas that we think are funny, and see if other people think it's funny. Yeah, I think
no, you goofier
me is real me. Heel version of me is what people naturally think of me.
Yeah. I think the heel thing is like, as someone as myself who was like picked on, bullied, never felt like I fit in. When I put on that heel persona, it's more like, oh, I'm just going to throw it back in your face, or take my past trauma and just display it in front of everybody. Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's therapeutic, because it's like you're getting it out and you're getting to like act on it a little bit, but you got to kind of keep yourself in check of like, it's not really you, calm the hell down. You know what I mean? But the Goldy, like the name, I don't learn shoot names. I'm not asking for any. I don't, but how did you develop the name Goldy, the persona, all of that? How did that come to you?
So Goldy came from Dan. It was one day I was kind of having one of those quit talks with him, and it was very early on, and kind of like, I don't feel like I belong. And he kind of took me aside, and I guess to make me feel more like I belong, he wanted to give me a name. And my real name's David Goldschmidt. There was already a Davey there, and another person going. Dan called someone David Blaine because he thought they looked like David Blaine for a bit. So there's already a David and a Davey. So he called me Goldy, and from there it just stuck. And then the fans started kind of catching on to it, because Monster Factory fans are kind of, in tight with, and they know us as like real people as well. So they hear other people call me Goldy, and they kind of just went along with it. I didn't love it at first, but we're here now.
I mean, you're Goldy, always chasing gold. Like every title is essentially gold. Black and gold is the best color scheme in all of things. See, black and gold is my old high school colors. Like our town, the one that you see in the background, is I didn't take this photo, but I don't know who did, but it looks like they're standing on my parents' roof taking it. Like, I don't know how this photo exists, but it's art, like, the black and gold essentially symbolizes like my town. I love it. I think it's beautiful. And then when I see other people do it, I always make the joke on TV when someone comes out wearing black and gold, I'm like, they're going to win. The win percentage is so much higher when you wear black and gold. It's statistically proven. We kind of went over some setbacks and adversities you kind of went through before, but is there anything else you want to touch on of like maybe some things you had to overcome? Have you had to overcome some injuries or any other mental blocks?
there's been a couple injuries, broken wrists, things like that, that have set me aside. And that's another thing with the factory. There's some schools that, you know, you get injured, it's like, all right, stay home. Like, you're not going to learn anything because you're not wrestling. But Dan's very, why wouldn't you be here? Why wouldn't you be watching and learning and listening and helping out, doing what you can do? Because I've learned as much teaching some of these newer students as I have from being taught, because you learn the nitty gritty, the fundamentals of everything. And the fundamentals, I already said this, but it goes so far. You can wrestle anyone if you have the fundamentals.
Yeah. I understand when people are hurt and the mental block of being an athlete myself, when you can't be in the game, it messes with you. So you just stay home and kind of self-reflect. And sometimes it's not always great, but being hurt and still like, hey, my legs hurt, but I can go to the gym and I can still work on the upper body, or I can go to wrestling school and work on my character. I can go to the wrestling school. I could do this. Like, you could find things you can do in your industry, even though you're still hurt, and still be there. I still think personally, when it comes to TV wrestling, independent wrestling, if you're hurt and you could physically make it to the show, even though you're not booked, you might lose out on some money, but physically being there and being a presence and being at a merch table, the fans aren't going to forget you. And they're going to be like, oh, he's injured. And you could also use it to your advantage of, oh, he's injured. Maybe you're only injured for 2 shows. And then the third show, you're there injured. And then you make a run in. And then people are popped because they just see, like, you stay in the eye of the fans. And I think it's very smart to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. When do you feel like you've hit your peak, or have you not yet? I mean, you're at a point right now, you said you're getting extra work, you're getting opportunities to be on TV. You just wrestled for New Japan Strong not too long ago, cut a dope ass promo. Are you feel like you're on that uprise yet? Like, 'cause you know what I mean?
Yeah, wrestling is hard. You know, there's always peaks and valleys. There's times where you feel like everyone is talking about you, everyone's looking at you, and then it feels like, oh, everyone forgot about me. And then it's, oh, maybe, and then no. So I think, you know, I'm up there. There's been points where I felt like I was higher, and you know, oh, something's happening, then kind of things fall through, and then, oh, something's happening, then things fall through. But I feel good where I am. I feel good with how I am physically, how I am mentally, and what's ahead for me.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you a little.
Long story short, no, not my peak yet. The peak will be.
I didn't think you were gonna say that. I'm gonna give you a little self-reflection one here. Where do you think is a hole in your game, or something that is holding you back that you feel that you have to work on to hit that next level?
I would say getting out more, getting seen more. That was something some higher ups had told me as well. Pretty much, there's no excuse not to be somewhere every weekend or multiple times a weekend. And yeah, it's something that I have struggled with, and maybe not tried hard enough, worked hard enough to be able to fill up, you know, all my weekends.
Are you in Pennsylvania? Are you Jersey? Where are you?
South Jersey.
South Jersey.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't. Do you work a lot in Jersey? 'Cause I only really see you on the Pennsylvania scene.
A couple places. The factory.
Jersey's so hit or miss. If you that Jersey wrestling scene is a cesspool, but there is a handful of pretty good ones. But the bad ones are so bad they just take over the Jersey wrestling scene, and it's bad.
Yeah, that is well said.
I used to work a lot of the Jersey scene. I've been on a lot of those shows. Yeah. I didn't last long. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Like, what the hell is happening? So we talked about, you know, the TV spots. So like, what are some moments for you that you feel were big accomplishments thus far in your this point in your career?
The Monster Factory show is huge. for a lot of reasons. Being able to kind of tell my story, and being on Apple TV, and getting messages from people I don't know, being like, "Hey, thanks for sharing your story." No one really talks about this. Like people my age, like, "Hey, you helped me, in college, whatever." That was really cool and gratifying to be able to, mean something more than just going out and doing flips or whatever. Um, so that is up there as something big, and will kind of be there forever. Um, Being able to go to the New Japan dojo, the LA dojo, was also a big one. Being able to go out there and train with Shibata and the other Lions at the time was cool, and being invited back by Shibata before kind of things changed over there. But being able to be there for a couple weeks and stay in their house was another real kind of eye opener for wrestling and where I was. And like, that was the first time where I ever been on the West Coast, and all that kind of stuff was really, really cool. And then, doing stuff for the other big companies is also cool.
Yeah. When you go to the dojo and you get to stay there, or you do extra work, or you're starting to rub elbows with people at the top. Once again, I feel like the Monster Factor kind of conditions you for that, because you're like, oh, this guy used to be here, he's up there. Like, we're just humans, we're just people. I think some people go to these smaller schools and no one in that school has ever made it to that level, or they've seen someone make it to that level, and then they go to a show and they work with someone, they're like, he's on TV. You're like, relax, kid. Act like you've been here before. But who are some cool people that you got to pick your brain and things you got from them? I know me personally, I've helped a lot with the meet and greets and stuff, and just got to talk to people, and just hearing some advice from people who've been there, whether they made there and failed, or been there and their time has come and passed. They give you really good advice on how to ground yourself and really build yourself to be better people in this business.
Yeah, good question. There's going to be people I don't remember. But the first ones that come to my head, Shibata, granted, wasn't really much of a conversation, language barrier wise, but the last day I was there, we went out to a bar. So kind of being able to be there and drink with Shibata, and I never eat, it was a Japanese place. I never eat that kind of food. I've never used chopsticks, and he's looking at me kind of laughing. This white boy doesn't know how to use chopsticks, and throughout the night I kind of learned, and he's like, "Oh, you learned," and I'm like, "Yeah."
Chopstick and pumping gas, not a good thing for Jersey people.
Right. That was kind of cool to feel like I'm buddy with this crazy human being in Shibata. Damian Priest, being from the factory, has always been really good to me. When I started there, he was still kind of coaching and training there. So when I see him in person places, he'll kind of come up to me and stop me and be like, "How you doing?" And talk to me about, ask me what I'm doing. And I'll be like, "Oh, what are you reading?" He's like, "Oh, I'm reading over my promo. Like, I'm going to forget most of it anyways." And those kind of things are cool.
I'm so proud of him at Mania. Just knowing he came from this area, and like, if you're a Damian Priest fan and you only know WWE for WWE, research that guy, man. Like, he transformed his body, his look, everything. Like, he's almost unrecognizable for where he started to where he is now. And it just goes to show that, like, you could be anything in this industry if you put the work in. And Damian Priest is that success story. Like dude was almost home, like was a borderline homeless. You know what I mean? And then he's a WWE world champion. Like, that's headline Puerto Rico. Like, that dude deserves the world. And every single person that I ever talked to, and you're just co-signing it, he was a great mentor, great leader, and he was also leading and helping other people, but still advancing his career to become a world champion one day.
Yeah. Couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah. Influences and role models in this business. Watching growing up, who were some people you modeled yourself after? And then once you got here, maybe some people that you look to now for motivation and inspiration.
like I said, Cena was always my guy growing up. He's who really made me love wrestling, and you know, I obviously still look up to him today as a character and as a businessman. And you know, he's not doing crazy stuff. He never did crazy stuff, but he is that character. He is that good person behind the scene that does everything he needs to do.
He's
So-
everything everything we wanted Hulk Hogan to be is John
right,
Cena.
right.
Yeah. If John Cena drops an N-bomb, I'm gonna be heartbroken. Please, John Cena, just stay clean. God, I had David Grohl, and that's now gone. Don't ruin it, John.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of. I mean, there definitely is other people, but he was always my big one, at least growing up and kind of getting into wrestling. And like I said, still now modeling how he was backstage and, you know, being a businessman.
Yeah. So his retirement's coming up. He's got like a year or so. Like, they didn't really put a timestamp on when it is, but he's going to go on a farewell tour, wrestle a bunch of people. As a John Cena fan, is there rematches you want to see or a bucket list match you would like to see?
I'd love to see him and Randy again. Randy also was up there for me. Yeah, there's a lot of new people now, a lot of young guys who I haven't even considered him.
We got to see him versus Cody, right? Like,
yeah. I mean,
and then John can do what The Rock didn't, and that's actually make Cody a megastar and pass the torch. I said it. I don't care.
Thinking about the new guys, like seeing Javon being able to wrestle Randy is so cool, and him blowing up on NXT.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there could be anyone.
I want to see him and Rocket, like on the Sean Smith. He's no longer Rocket, but the guy's like, oh, like that guy's on NXT. Like, Sean, keep grinding. Like, if that guy made it, you're on his level. He's amazing, and you're right there. And actually, I forgot to ask at the beginning to the people watching, or maybe they don't know, how long have you been in the industry now or working at this?
It's about to be 7 years.
It's awesome.
So
about the same time for me as a podcaster. I'm on my 7th year podcasting.
Yeah, November will be 7 years.
That's awesome. What are some hobbies or interests you have outside of the world of professional wrestling? So when you're not at school, you're not training, you're turning your brain off from the world of professional wrestling. What are you doing to unwind, or what are you into? Sports, video games, movies, reading books?
I wish I could say reading books. I tried that a little bit ago. I read
audiobooks are my thing. Yeah.
I read one book and then I'm like, all right, we're getting into this. I tried a second book and I'm like, it's boring. Music, I like music. Working out, not to sound cliche, but working out's a good way for me to unwind my brain and everything. Watching some movies sometimes. Big Wes Anderson fan. That kind of stuff.
Music wise, what are you putting on? What genre are you into?
Alternative kind of stuff that people don't know.
Give us a band. What are you listening to? What's on your playlist?
I don't want to throw out some obscure ones and people be like, oh, that's dumb.
Please do. You're talking to the guy who listens to all independent stuff. Throw out some obscurities. I like finding and searching out new things.
A big one I like is Father John Misty. He's an indie guy, not a real father. It's just his name.
Yeah.
Mountain Goats has always been a big one for me. I'm literally looking at my wall over here. I have albums hung up, seeing which ones I thought were good enough to hang out.
Manchester Orchestra. Do you collect vinyl?
More for art purposes.
Got you.
I like the idea of physically having the album cover because it's literally art. And I like
are you a fig collector or do you collect?
No,
are you a collection or anything?
No, when I was younger, I collected shot glasses because I thought that was cool.
All right.
Glasses. But yeah, U2 was my big bands all my life, though.
Interesting. I never
Yeah.
got into them. I can see how people do, but I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
get it. It
Yeah,
just has a lot of memories for me. My
yeah.
dad gets to listen to it a lot, so all growing up was all U2.
That's awesome. So words of encouragement for a beginner in the industry or anyone who's chasing their dreams or going through it. Obviously, you've overcome a lot of your own, not even just life issues, but your own personal issues of battling yourself. And that's the hardest person to fight is your own brain. What's some encouragement you would give to somebody?
See it through. We already talked about how I wanted to quit, and I'm so thankful I didn't. Just not quitting. It's the number of people that I've seen come and go from the Monster Factory, literally in the hundreds of people who come a week, come a couple weeks, come a month, and then leave. And I'll see them, on Facebook or something, and be like, oh, I forgot, respectfully forgot that person even existed. Things get hard. They do, and just push through. And if you put all the work in and you're a good person and you do everything you are needed to do and above that, it's not that hard to, be successful. It's easier said than done.
The
Put it
payoff
all
is
in.
those small victories, because I don't know if you ever fully hit your full victory, right? Like if you're working at any entertainment or art or any dream, you could have a goal like I want to be here. And I think a lot of people have like say if you want to be a wrestler, just for example, I want to be in WWE, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't hit that goal because you set it so far out that you just you quit on yourself. It's like, no, I want to learn this small thing and then work to that small goal and then set your next small goal and then go to that goal. And because those accomplishments of feeling you hit those small ones keep you moving. But if you set it too high, too far, too unrealistic, you're gonna go a year or two in and be like, there's no shot I'm gonna hit that big goal. I'm out of here. And I think too many people make that mistake.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Who are some little bonus one here? Who are some people on the scene that you think more people should be aware of?
I mean, first one I'll throw out is just my best friend, Brett Waters. His mind for wrestling is phenomenal. Being able to deconstruct matches and call matches and understand everything, and in the ring, very good as well. He's someone that I think people should look at. Who else?
Is there an opponent you wrestled that you're like, man, that guy was really, really good. I'd like to work him again, or more people should be aware of?
I think people are aware of him, but I wrestled Vandegrift for New Japan. He's really good, and I'd love to wrestle him again in a longer match because we kind of had a quick pre-show match. Yeah, he's a good guy and he's a good worker.
Awesome. And to wrap this one up, and I super appreciate your time, and I would love to have you back in the future. I said it kind of off camera, I said I'm getting this interview as I can now because I think this guy is he's not going to be around much longer. So I'm very grateful I got it now. What are you grateful for, and are you currently happy?
I'm grateful for. I mean, it's going to be the most cliche thing, but genuinely, my friends who surround me, people like Brett and people at the factory who kind of keep me going. And I'm thankful for, again, very cliche, but I'm thankful for wrestling for all the reasons I listed earlier. I'm thankful for where I am now, and I'm, relatively happy. I'm no one's ever going to be happy. I always want, the next thing. I want more, but I'm happy with where I am and where how far I've come because of wrestling and because of those friends who've gotten me here.
Yeah. You said you have to get out more. That's what everyone's telling you. You got to. What are some places you want to work? Promotions, people out there you would like to work, maybe in promotions you're looking at.
There's a lot of places I'd like to work.
Let's speak them into existence.
Oof, man, now I gotta think of
You're
names.
gonna be shocked at how many times people have said I want to call this guy out, and I'm just saying it happens on this podcast, and a couple weeks later they're wrestling that guy. So,
I'd like to wrestle at like Revolver or NFW or Black Label Pro. Place there's a lot of good places. There's a lot of really good places.
I don't think it gets enough respect, but it gets a lot of cool names to the door. Beyond is a cool place too, up in Massachusetts.
Yeah, Beyond as well.
Yeah.
Hog.
Cool. I'm a huge Hog. I love a lot of the people who have come out of that school. They're another school like Monster Factory. Like, I haven't met someone who's come from Hog that is not a good class act person. They make good wrestlers and good people.
Yeah. Everything, their production, everything looks great.
There's some things on their social media I would help them. I think they should work. I love Sam Laterna, and she did it. I'm shooting a little bit on Hog. I love you so much, but this is out of love. But Sam Laterna's sitting there holding a microphone, and she's doing an interview with somebody, like a big name. I think it was like Swerve or somebody. It was like, I'm like, oh my God, Sam. I root for people who I worked for when they get cool moments. And Sam's holding a microphone, and she's talking, but I don't know if the footage was recorded somewhere else, and then somebody was recording it on their phone, but it looked too centered to be there. But the microphone is just a prop. Like, it's not plugged into the phone, and the audio was coming straight through the microphone. It's loud as fuck, and you hear none of it. I'm like, you're better than this, Hog. Like, if I just wish I had to be there, like, can you use my mic and then plug this in so everything sounds amazing? Like, that's a good moment for both people and your promotion. Like, yeah. I hate that. Those little things just my production brain.
But yeah, hopefully I get to some of those. There's a lot more that I didn't mention.
Have you worked Deppin yet?
No. I've been on one. Yeah, I've been on AXW with him, but no, I've never worked him.
I think stylistically, I think that'd be a fun matchup.
Yeah,
I mean that guy's worked a lot of cool names. Like, I feel like wrestling's one of those things. Sorry if I'm keeping you a little longer here, but I'm just excited here. Wrestling's one of those things, and if you maybe can co-sign this, is like you work a bunch of people, right? But then you work someone who has had like a Deppin. Deppin, no disrespect, is like that gatekeeper guy, like stepping stone gatekeeper type person where he's done a lot of things, but he should be higher. Like, I feel like he's someone that should be on TV weekly. I think he's good enough to be. I think his character, everything's polished. I love that dude. But work for someone on your level or someone younger to work at Deppin is insane, because that dude's Zaber Moxley. Like, he's been in there with people, and I feel like when you're in wrestling, it's like the rogue ability. When you touch someone, if you're good enough, you can absorb some of their power or some of their, like, you learn from that. Like, it's just that weird. It's you get 15 minutes backstage to put a match on. You got 8 to 10 to do it in the ring, but after those 8 to 10 minutes and the 15 talking it, and after, you evolve as a person, because it's like you rub off each other, and it's and Deppin's one of those people I think would be amazing for you, like, just to kind of suck in that energy a little bit.
Yeah. I wrestled going off, wrestling good people. QT and Macklin, I wrestled in a relatively close period of time together, but those two are both just phenomenal workers and understanding wrestling and being good at everything they do. Being able to wrestle them was literally just in the match was learning experience. Like, oh, that's how he does that. It's like, oh, I'll take that kind of thing. 100%.
Did you ever go down to the Nightmare Factory yet and work there?
No, I talked to QT after I wrestled with him. I'm like, hey, I'd love to come down at some point. He's like, yeah, show up. I'm like, all right.
Definitely do that. Like, definitely get down there. There's a lot of cool names that walk through the door. Like, that's super pumped for me. Like, when I look at like Monster Factory or the Worldwide Dojo or Catch Point, and I'm like, oh, today Willow showed up, or today this Wheeler showed up, or this, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool for them. Like, I can imagine how much information they sucked in. Like, I just get excited for people, because not just like to overblow them, because they're all just people like us, but like, that's so vital to someone just to kind of have that moment. And a lot of people get nervous and they don't go talk to them or pick their brain, or like, not even just to mark out, but just be like, can you just give me something? Like, I need it. Like you're saying before, like, a lot of us struggle mentally, and those little tidbits are just seeds to help plant and water our own seed to grow and flourish, you know. But awesome, man. I appreciate your time so much. Where can people find and support you?
Social media at the David Goldy, Goldy. Yeah, that's gonna be where everything's at.
And you can catch him right now at AXW before he blows up. So make sure you go to AXW if you're local to the 570 area. Any other promotions that you're working that people can go check you out at?
Always at the Monster Factory. I'm wrestling at Dog. I have a couple shows coming up with them. It's a Jersey place. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that'll do it for the ABJ podcast. Black and gold all day long. This is the gold episode. We're on our way to the top. Keep stay tuned to the podcast. Check out the links below. Like I said, follow on social media. Grab his merchandise, my merchandise, sew them together because it'll be the best combination of all time. We'll see you guys next time. Here's some music by the Converse Kid. We're out of here.